Hello there. Okay, so something I've done for a lot of my life is watch several makers and creators, whether on TV or movies, but especially YouTube. People like Mark Rober, Stuff Made Here, Scott Ujan, and these people have really inspired me to become a maker myself. Now, the problem though is that all of these makers seem to have all of these crazy tools and studios and garages just chock full of machines for making stuff. And I don't have any of that. I've got a couple 3D printers and the stuff that I could pilfer from my dad. um, so I feel like there's almost this disconnect between the stuff that I want to create, the stuff that I see on my screen, and the stuff that I'm able to create. But then I think, well, those people must have gotten their start somewhere, right? And their start probably looked a lot similar, more similar to my setup. So maybe it's not all the fancy tools or technology that makes a successful maker. Maybe it's just the willingness to actually get out there and make something regardless of what you have on hand. And this is what I like to call the virtue of being scrappy. Scrappy is the ability to have an idea in your head that you want to make, and then the willingness and the ability to scrape enough stuff together until you actually make it. Something like, so my goal with this little mini project was to have almost like a cool background that I could use behind these little photo shoots. It's not the best, but at least I can easily remove the background and replace it with something else. Now I want to get into what I'll actually be making in this video. So a little while ago, I got my hands on some really cool RC servo motors, and I wanted to try something that had been done before a million times, but that was still pretty cool. And so what I'll be making is a Stewart platform. Basically, it's two little slabs and on the bottom slab you have all the servos, and it's connected to the top slab with a bunch of linkages. You can then use servos to move those linkages around and change how they are connected to the platform, which allows you to move the platform around into all sorts of interesting configurations. As you can see, I already began constructing it, but there are a few changes that I think I want to make to the current design. But first, let's see it in action. I think the first thing I want to do is add this little Y to the bottom that I printed just to have a place to put all the wires. Then I want to tackle these linkages. They are terrible. They're literally just something I found on Thingiverse that I then elongated because even the base model wasn't going to work. So I definitely want to design something a bit more custom and something that just doesn't look so janky. Okay, so the other thing that I want to upgrade about the Stewart platform is the code. This code is nice, it's great and all, there's nothing wrong with it, but right now the Stewart platform just goes up and then back down again. And besides that, all of this was written by my good friend ChatGPT. And well, that's again all well and good for Scrappy. It's not what I want in a final project. I want to be able to understand what I've written. I want to understand what the code does because I'm the one who came up with it. And that way, if something breaks, as it inevitably does, I understand how to fix it. Now I'm just attaching the bottom print to the base. Nothing too fancy. I did want to mention here something about audio quality. Shout out George Z1 Gamer for recommending that I invest in some equipment to improve that. I do intend to do that at some point, but not yet. So for the time being, excuse the microphone. Okay, so I've got everything set up. It's time to test this thing, see if it still works. So, goodness. Okay, look at that. Now that that's done, it's time to work on the linkages. My plan is to have these sort of ball and cup linkages where I designed the cup to fit into the ball and then the ball to be screwed onto the two platforms. That way, the linkages can still rotate freely, but they don't have the weird screw and wide hole thing going on that was just so messy on the original design, and that definitely would have made it impossible to do any of the inverse kinematics for. Just trying to pass the time as I wait for my print to finish. Okay, so I've printed several prototypes of these ball and cup linkages, and I just I first tried like a really small, shallow cup, and I found that the ball just didn't stay in there very well. But then when I upgraded to a cup that juts out more, you can see that it just broke whenever I put the ball in. I tried with different sizes, just making it a little bit smaller, and that didn't seem to work. So I decided to make the cup a lot thicker to see if that would solve the issue, but I was still running into the problem of it breaking. I really didn't want to try and print it sideways so that the layer lines would be strengthening the cup, but I might have to if I can't think of anything else. So instead, I'm going to avoid that by just printing more test prints and seeing if I can get the exact right size of the cup, just jutting out just enough so that the ball stays in, but not enough so that it breaks whenever I try to put it in. Okay, so I think I finally have the final versions of these two pieces. I decided to add this little cylinder on the edges of the cups, the balls, because this would allow it to stick out a little bit from the Stewart platform itself, giving the cups a little bit more range of motion and also allowing me to use the longer screws that I have. I haven't changed anything about the cups. So now it's time just to print all of them and see how they come out. Okay, so a little note from Eli from the future here. As I've been editing this video, I've been having a lot of trouble just kind of filling space, troubleshooting, doing test prints, debugging. It doesn't exactly make for thrilling video content. So let me know in the comments down below what you think would be entertaining to just kind of fluff up the video a little bit more, especially when the actual process isn't super entertaining to watch. Okay, so here you can see all the different prototypes that went into coming up with the final product. And that's not even to mention, like, these weren't the first prototype either for these linkages. So it just goes to show how much work and printing and reprinting can go into coming up with a design like this. But once you get a final product that works and works well, it's so rewarding. Okay, now that everything looks good and is functioning a lot better than it was before, I think we can go ahead and tackle some of the software. Okay, so my initial plan here was to have just a time lapse of me doing some research on more of the math behind the Stewart platform. And really, all it is just me scrolling on a PDF and my head bobbing a lot. So, yeah, enjoy, I guess. Okay, so I have been coding for several hours now, but I finally have something that I'm proud of and that I actually understand, mostly. Uh, so basically, I just type in the index of the server I want, say servo 3, and then the angle that I want it to turn to, say 90 degrees, and then click enter, and it sets that angle. I can even do multiple servos at once. Let's go 1 to 45 degrees, separate it with a semicolon, 2 to 79 degrees, why not? 5 to, say, 180 degrees. And I do them simultaneously, which I'd say is pretty cool. And then when I'm ready to quit the program, I just type in -1 and it will safely set everything back to the starting position so that I don't destroy the motors when I turn it on next time. I'm really happy with this. It'll be really easy to just do the next step, which is to figure out if there's a certain position that I want the Stewart platform to be in. I can just solve for the angles and then give this code the angles and it'll just go to that position. So yeah, I guess now I just need to figure that part out. So in order to find the angles instead of, just being a normal person and using a protractor, I set up my phone to take a picture from above and then use a CAD software to essentially try and map out the angles. And then I went in with my calipers and measured distances. Okay, so we're about to see if this thing really works. What I do is I just input the position that I want it to go to. There's X, Y, Z, and then pitch, roll, and yaw. I'm just gonna leave blank. And then when I press enter, it moved a little bit. Sweet. And that's when everything went wrong. So what followed this is many, many hours of testing, things going wrong, trying to diagnose the problem, trying to fix it, things still going wrong, not really sure if any of the fixes are even getting me anywhere closer to the right thing. And then the cycle just repeating over and over again, which was really frustrating. Here I am trying to do something that people have done
thousands of times. This is a problem that has been solved. But for some reason, I just can't get mine to work. And it's at this point that I think I'm starting to realize that I have a lot more that I need to learn if I want to get this working properly. Because you see, I have a deadline. If I don't get this done before winter break ends, I'm not going to have enough time at the start of the semester to finish this and make sure I get this video out before the end of January. So I really need to figure this out soon, or it will not end well. It's now the last day before break ends. If this works, I upload a video. If it doesn't work, I don't. And my YouTube career is over. And it doesn't work. As a last ditch effort, I tried getting ChatGPT to program this little joystick that would move the axes, and it also doesn't work. You guys didn't really think that was the end, did you? Okay, so I get it. This isn't how videos like this are supposed to go. It's supposed to be I make the thing, I have maybe some hiccups for dramatic effect and make the video interesting, then I upload on schedule. But that's not my life. My life is I try to make something and sometimes it works almost as expected, but most of the times it doesn't live up to what I had hoped to build. And one of the goals I have with this channel is just to be honest. If you want to watch somebody who's always successful and makes super awesome stuff, there's plenty of that on YouTube. And I'm not dissing that kind of content at all. There are so many people who are way smarter than me, who have way more tools than me, who are honestly way cooler than me, that make some really interesting stuff and some really cool content to watch. This channel, though, it was always my intention not that I would be perfect, but instead that I would be motivated to make cool things and to try and even fail because it's something I love doing and just don't often make time for it anymore. I mean, Janky over here, that's his name, he came about because I had a summer where I wasn't doing anything else interesting. I don't have those anymore. So having this channel was my way of saying, hey, Eli, you've got a deadline, you've got a schedule, do something interesting, make something cool. And it kind of worked. I worked really hard on it at the beginning, but then, like I said, school started again and I got really busy, which is why this episode isn't coming out in January like I promised. Now, I think you can give me a little bit of grace because it'll air on February 1st, but whatever. So, I guess all this is to say that I really wish I had gotten the Stewart platform working as I wanted it to work. I'm definitely not done with it. I will revisit it in the future and hopefully actually make it work. Um, but for now, this is what I got. This is honestly what I have. And if you're not here for that, that's okay because I'm doing what I love. And if I get some views, great. If I don't, oh well. But that's that for my first official video. Always remember, God loves you and you were made to make.